All right, let's get into today's top story, and I want to talk about what's going on in Ukraine. So NATO countries are starting to realize something, starting to wake up to something. They are about to lose their war in Ukraine against Russia. It is a NATO war, after all, unless they do something dramatic. Now, they have thrown out all of their weapons. They've thrown all of their weapons and ammunition into Ukraine, so much so that the U.S. is running out of ammunition and weapons, which the Washington Post reported and confirmed by the New York Times. Germany can't build tanks because they can't process the steel required to build them right now. And things don't stop now. Ukraine will be destroyed. It will cease to exist as a country. Now, we've been saying this since the start of the war. Of course, Noam Chomsky said it, and many experts we've had here on the show have said it, that there's only two ways this ends, right? Either there's a settlement, a peace settlement, or Ukraine no longer exists as a country. And it looks like they're going with the second option right now. The Biden administration, NATO leaders are going with the second option. So here is Colonel Douglas Macgregor, friend of the show. He's been on, of course, a number of times. Now, he did an interview yesterday, and I love this quote, and I wanted to feature what Colonel Macgregor said. He said, the fact that in his foreign policy, Biden's take no prisoners conduct of U.S. foreign policy means the outcome of the next phase of the Ukrainian war will destroy the Ukrainian state. So what does he mean by that? Well, we've got some staggering evidence that I'm going to show you in a minute about how the Ukraine military is destroyed and it's being run by contractors and NATO forces. Here's just some of the evidence. If you thought things were winding down, now that Republicans have taken control of the House of Representatives and they said, maybe we're not going to have this endless purse strings that are available to just keep putting us further into war. No, it's not happening. Not happening at all. Things are actually about to get much, much worse. So overnight, a massive drone strike. Take a look at this. Strike inside of Russia. This is inside of Russia. Destroyed an oil depot. Again, inside of Russia, which has reservoirs of oil products that are right now on fire, and they're still trying to put this out. Rescue teams at the scene trying to put out this fire, according to the Telegraph. And here's just a graph from the Telegraph that I want to point out. So here's the headline. Drone strike in Russia border town sparks fire at oil depot. There was an unidentified bomb drop from drones. So where are those drones coming from? Of course, they're coming from the United States. Supply of drones to Ukraine. And let's be clear, these drones are run by and guided by the United States. David's back.
Yes, I'm back. And I wanted to say, I'm shocked that the U.S. isn't there guarding the oil fields now, guarding the oil so that it doesn't get out of hand.
So no,
we did in everywhere else we go.
No, they'll go to Syria and they'll steal the oil. We'll go to Syria and steal the oil. We'll go to Haiti and steal your oil. We'll go to other places and steal your oil. But in Moscow, we'll bomb it and destroy it so that you can't send it to Germany. So see how this circular logic works.
I think it's probably more that we want to safeguard their oil, and the best place to keep it is in the U.S. So we're just moving it from Syria, moving it from these places to the U.S. so we can watch over it a little closer.
Yeah, it's like if I'm walking along the street and a $5 bill falls out of my pocket, right? And then a person behind me picks it up and they don't know that I saw them pick it up and they start walking away. And I say, excuse me, you've got my $5 bill. And they're saying, oh, no. Well, I was just going to take it back to my house to keep it safe for you. That's what's happening. Oh, okay. Thank you so much. You were just going to take it. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's what we're doing with their oil. That's what we do with the other natural resources. But in this case, we can't go in and exploit their oil. So we just blow it up. Now, this is happening not just in this town where this oil, it's happening all over the Belgorod area. It's happening in multiple cities along these border towns in Russia. And it's just a matter of time before all hell breaks loose. Now, you saw the muddy tracks, the muddy fields that we've been showing you over the past few days. So they're just sitting and waiting right now. But the Russian army has made major advances and has picked up a lot of territory and has repelled a number of NATO advances over the past 24 hours. But here's just one sentence out of this Telegraph piece that I wanted to highlight for you. It follows a pattern, these attacks, alleged attacks by Kiev, suggesting it has increased its capability of striking into Russian territory. Oh, into Russian territory, which was heretofore not something possible by them. So the longer range weapons are now arriving. just in time to strike into Russia. And then today we heard from the EU leaders on what they want from Ukraine. They want Ukraine to be totally destroyed by launching long-range attacks inside of Russia towards Moscow, because that's what will happen. So here's the headline: EU country urges Ukraine to strike Russia. Now, this is Latvian Foreign Minister Edgars Rinkēvičs urging NATO to allow Ukraine to use its Western-supplied weaponry for strikes deep into Russian territory. Deep into Russian territory. The top diplomat made the remarks in an interview with Bloomberg. Said in particular, the weapons should be used to attack sites used by Moscow to stage missile strikes against Ukraine's critical infrastructure. So we got to step this up. We really need to start striking inside of Russia using NATO weapons. Long-range heavy weapons. But there's no Ukrainian army really at all really left to do this. So who's going to be directing those missile strikes? It's not Ukrainians. Are you out of your freaking mind? We're going to let Ukrainians use HIMARS, launching heavy weapons. We're going to let them direct drone strikes with our drones.
Well, and we already know that the United States doesn't really care about casualties the way Russia does, right? So it's like Russia has clearly said they're trying to minimize casualties. And I think this is taking advantage of that because they know he's probably not going to do any kind of retaliation measure that's going to have mass casualties, but we don't care. We'll just send whatever, wherever.
No, and of course, we don't care about Ukraine either. So,
right.
We're using it as a staging ground. And this is what Colonel McGregor is talking about. This is why Ukraine will be wiped off the map. And it by all accounts, already is. So let's have NATO attack Moscow. That sounds like a great idea. Morons. Have you lost your collective shit? I mean, really? And the answer is
every other
yes.
NATO country involved? Like, is every other NATO country on board with this? Because it doesn't make any sense. Ukraine is not part of NATO. So why is NATO involved if they're not part of it? Because
they've admitted they're a de facto partner. So, and now they're fast tracking. They really are trying to fast track this. This is the news of the day. They're really trying to fast track this NATO membership so that they will become technically part of NATO. And therefore, then we will have to all step in. What are they waiting
for the membership card to print? Like, what the hell takes so long?
Sometimes like when you go to Costco or Sam's Club and you got to get the card printed and it's like jammed. And
and it's got to be mailed to you.
Can you come back another day? Like the little plastic card thing, the card reader thing's not working. Sorry, Vladimir, we couldn't do it. We couldn't get it printed out. Also, we have no electricity, so we couldn't print it here in Ukraine. So the answer is yes, they have lost their minds. And of course, Republicans are just as corrupt as Democrats. Make no mistake about it. That's why 100 million Americans do not vote in elections, because they recognize both parties are corrupt. And now that the House is under Republican control, we're ready to step up long-range heavy weapons into Ukraine. So these are the things that Biden said he would never do, but Republicans are now calling him on it. So we're playing the good cop, bad cop. We showed you this the other day, but it's worth repeating because these are the people who are going to be in charge of sending these heavy weapons, and it's already unfolding. Watch.
Joining me now are two congressmen who will have a key role in providing aid to Ukraine in the future, likely leading the national security committees when Republicans take control of the House in January. Congressman Michael McCaul of the Foreign Affairs Committee and Congressman Mike Turner of the Intelligence Committee. Thank you both for being here. And I want to pick up where Colonel Milburn left off. He believes that there should be longer range weapons sent to Ukraine. Would you approve of that?
100%. He's absolutely correct. I mean, my criticism of this administration was before the invasion, we wouldn't put weapons in. And since the invasion, we've slow walked this process. First it was Stingers, then it was Javelins, then HIMARS.
Help people understand that. Those are missiles that don't go as far as the ones you think would solve the problem.
So what the problem right now is the Iranian drones are going into Crimea, and the Ukrainians can't hit those Iranian drones unless they have the longer-range artillery called the ATACMS. For some reason, I was with Secretary Austin at the Halifax National Security Forum. For some reason, they will not put those weapons into Ukraine. When we give them what they need, they win. And this could be not, it doesn't have to be
does it further incite Russia if they do?
Well, Crimea is not part of Russia under international law. So if it can hit into Crimea, I think that's fair game. I think the problem is they don't want to be provocative, and we give them what they need. They win. If we don't, it's going to be a long, protracted war.
And Congressman Turner, you were recently in Ukraine about a month ago. I know you've suggested that Republicans will make matters difficult for the White House to pass more Ukrainian aid. Will you make it more difficult? And how do you view this?
No, it's not an issue of difficulty. It's an issue actually just of accountability. Martha, first of all, thank you for going to Ukraine. I mean, that your piece shows what Putin said, the opposite of what Putin said, which is they are a country. They do have spirit, and they are winning. I went to Ukraine in a bipartisan.
Oh, they're winning. Thank you, Martha, for going to Kiev. Thank you for really going to the front lines.
Thank you for that fabulous piece of propaganda.
Oh, my God. It's such garbage. I mean, this is the kind of stuff people are fed. You wake up on a Sunday morning and you watch these two clowns. You watch Mike McCall and Jim Turner. Mike McCall, whose head looks like it should be at a Macy's Thanksgiving Day float. Coming down the street now, next to Garfield, the cat is Mike McCall, head of the Armed Services Committee, full of hot air, flying down Fifth Avenue in New York City. I mean, this is, unbelievable to listen to these guys. So it's Biden's fault, the slow walking of these weapons. So we've been slow about it. And when we send them heavy weapons, they win. Okay, you've lost 20% of your country. And we're literally stuck in mud. How are you winning exactly? Please explain that to me. You have no electricity. Most of your wealthy, almost all of your wealthy class and upper middle class citizenry have all fled, all left, and they're not going back. We'll show you that in a minute. So you need more evidence that Ukraine is almost gone. Let's get it right from the Ursula's mouth. I think the Ursula isn't the Ursula a famous wasn't Ursula in Little Mermaid?
It was Little Mermaid, yeah.
Like the evil with the tentacles,
the octopus.
Yep.
So this is Ursula von der Leyen's mouth speaking and words coming out of it, and she sent out this tweet and video earlier today. So let me go through this sort of category here and give you the context here. So this was the tweet heard around the world earlier today. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes. We will work with the ICC, International Criminal Court, by the way, that the United States is not a part of, right? And help set up specialized courts to try Russia's crimes. With our partners, we will make sure that Russia pays for the devastation it caused with the frozen funds of oligarchs and assets of its central bank. Okay, so now that was the tweet. Notice there was a video linked in there, right? In that video, so let's just play you the video. Now I want you to watch this very closely to see if you notice anything at all. David, you're not allowed to talk on this because I know you already saw this.
All right.
Philip, you too. Well, Phil, I don't know if you saw this or not. But anyway, anyone in the chat, let me know if you notice something odd about this video. I'll play it a couple of times here. So here, go ahead and roll it. It's towards the beginning. Watch.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought death, devastation, and unspeakable suffering. We all remember the horrors of Bucha. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes, including for its crime of aggression against a sovereign state.
All right, did you see that? Did you see it? Did you see anybody catch that? Anybody catch that? All right, let's roll it again, see if anyone pays attention. Very, very close. And I know if you're driving right now or you're listening to the show, I apologize. It's a visual thing that you need to see. So for that, I apologize to all of our cab driver listeners and truckers out there. But go ahead and roll it again.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought death, devastation, and unspeakable suffering. We all remember the horrors of Bucha. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes.
You guys got it. I see a bunch of
including for its crime.
I don't know why does that do that? A bunch of people, I see it in Rumble. A lot of people say edit. Mansuret edit says, yep, it's a cut. Hookheart says it's cut. It's cut. It's cut. A lot of people saying it's cut. Bucha, or people are saying Bucha. Well, yeah, that's equally as, right? We all know the truth there, right? So yes, but other parts of it. So there was a cut. There was a quick edit. Why was that edit there? So if you didn't catch it, we're going to show you now what was edited out. That was a real question. Like, why was there this edit? Why did they then also delete the tweet? So that tweet then was deleted. Okay. Then they edited the video, and then they also scrubbed the transcript. They redacted the transcript, the name of our show. They redacted the transcript so you couldn't see what was said. Luckily, someone managed to grab it. I love the internet. And here we go. So here was the original video. Watch this.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought death, devastation, and unspeakable suffering. We all remember the horrors of Bucha. It is estimated that more than 20,000 civilians and more than 100,000 Ukrainian military officers have been killed so far. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes.
Whoa. Interesting. Interesting that we decided to take that out of it. 100,000. The Ukrainian army destroyed. An admission by Ursula von der Leyen. And now we've had separate confirmations in the 80 to over 100,000 range. And that was in September that those numbers were out. Killed, not casualties, killed. So this afternoon, the EU came out with like a bit of a, her press office came out with like, well, no, it was out of context. First of all, the 20,000 civilians killed is also garbage. And we know that that's totally false information, total propaganda. In addition to which, the piece of 100,000 is also propaganda. That is casualties. So no, we conflated the numbers. We said it was casualties and dead, and we didn't mean it. It was a wrong number. We got it from a third-party source, so we just, no, sorry. Right. Sure. So here it is side by side. Someone did a mashup here, and this is pretty funny. To watch this side by side, you can see the two videos where the cut happens. Watch this.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought death, devastation, and unspeakable suffering. We all remember the horrors of Bucha. It is estimated that more than 20,000 civilians and more than 100,000 Ukrainian military officers have been killed so far. Russia must pay for its horrific crimes.
And so it's estimated that there are over 300,000 casualties, 100,000 dead at least, an army gone by all accounts. And so who are the mercenaries and contractors and people directing these attacks, the people that have poured over the border from other countries and are being paid by EU and US tax dollars to continue this fight? I'd love to know. Well, we've seen them coming from ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all sorts of countries pouring in and being paid to move in there. If you need more evidence that Ukraine is a failed state, look at the wealthy class in Ukraine. So remember how any fighting age man in Ukraine, like if you're of a fighting age, you were not allowed to leave, right? You'd be stopped at the border. You'd be stopped at the border and you'd have to go to the front lines and fight and die, because that's what's going to happen in this. Nothing good is going to come of this. Of course, but if you've got money, then you could flee. So if you've got money from all of the billions of dollars that the United States and the EU have been pouring into Ukraine over the years, into the most corrupt government in Europe, they are totally enriched with all of this money. And they were able to flee. So in the summer and early fall of 2022, Ukrainska Pravda, I don't know if I'm saying this wrong or not, it's a Ukrainian newspaper, so good for them. They've done an investigation. And they prepared several investigative documentaries. So Ukrainska Pravda, the newspaper in Ukraine, where they did they were getting tips about all sorts of Ukrainian wealthy who fled the country, got on private jets that were allowed to leave. Oh, they were allowed to leave because they've got money. And so the newspaper, the Ukrainian newspaper, tracked these oligarchs down, these fat cats. And they've called them now, I love this name, they're calling them the Monaco Battalion, because they've all basically moved to Monaco on their yachts or bought yachts, living on yachts, bought houses, living along the Côte d'Azur. For instance, businessman Konstantin Shivago, who's included in Interpol's wanted list, relaxing on his private yacht that's worth $70 million.
Wait, did I not just see the Batmobile?
Yes. Yeah, they've got so much money they can drive a Batmobile. Like they have the I don't even know what year Batmobile. I think that's from
the Michael Keaton, the 80s.
I don't know if that's
what it looked like.
The fins looked really high, so I thought it might have been like the cheesy George Clooney film, Batman. But nevertheless, like all of this is like hidden camera footage of them capturing these oligarchs, like flying to their yachts in Monaco, and they call them the Monaco Battalion, meaning like these guys should be back in Ukraine. You have all of this, you guys should be fighting. Like you guys should be fighting, right? But no, you fled the Monaco Battalion with, there it is, the Monaco Battalion. It's great. It's like 30 minutes of this, like of watching them tracking down these oligarchs. So good for them for doing this investigative journalism. And one of the guys, in fact, promised to sell his yacht and transfer the funds towards the restoration of Kharkov. He's going to sell his yacht. And they caught him not selling the yacht, but laying on it with some beautiful women. So, and we just got a super chat here from Cal-El. Russia bombed supply lines to 100,000 German troops invading the Caucasus oil fields during World War II, effectively changing the tide of the war. Just to put it in perspective, 100,000 dead in Ukraine. Yeah. So good perspective there, right? And of course, that number, Cal-El, that you're pointing out, like we've been told exact opposite numbers by Zelensky, right? We've been told it's much lower. I think the number they gave us was 9,000 from Zelensky's side. And so who called her up and was like, hey, get this off. You got to delete this tweet immediately. Apparently, according to reports, Kiev called and was upset about it. That makes it look like we're losing this war. You've got to remove that. Did Washington call? You got to scrap that transcript. You got to scuttle that. That's not good. That's really not good. You got to get rid of this. You got to continue to lie and tell everyone that Ukraine's winning the war and that our weapons are helping. Unbelievable. And the liars continue. The lies continue.
And New Joe said, another super chat said, truth, 14,000 dead pre-SMO. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. So just wait. I mean, again, let me circle back to Colonel McGregor's point. Does anyone think that this ends with some sort of Ukrainian victory here? No. If this continues and these attacks inside of Russia continue, they will be officially destroyed as a nation state. And there's warnings today of Poland taking the western side of the country, which we are also predicting. From both sides, removed, crushed, and then you have a landlocked middle section, which is not a nation state at all, destroyed. And it didn't have to be this way. In fact, Putin came out over the weekend and in an interview, he was talking, it was really interesting. He said, I made a mistake, which when do you hear politicians say that? But he said, I made a mistake on the Minsk agreements. And I shouldn't have signed them. And we didn't know how then at the point, the people of the Donbass, whether they were going to lean pro-Russian or where they would be. So we went with the Minsk agreements thinking that would, give them time or however that, and they would be safe. And it didn't end up that way. Instead, they were needlessly attacked for the next 8 years and shelled, and a genocide, of course.